Hey guys, welcome to our time together this afternoon, this evening, wherever you are, whatever time you're watching this. We're blessed to have a little bit of time today to spend with Susan Berkley and to ask her a lot of questions. A lot of stuff going on right now, a lot of talk right now about artificial intelligence. It's been something that's worked in my industry. I was in newspaper and sports writing, and so I understand it a little bit. But Susan, welcome. We're excited to have an opportunity to speak with you today.
Hey, Joe. So nice to be here and a pleasure to talk to you.
Well, tell us a little bit. I mean, a lot of people who know you and have been on our webinars for a long time know the story about who you are, but to kind of tell those that might not know and haven't heard the story, tell them a little bit about why this is an area that would concern you,
Mm.
not just as a business owner, but also as someone who's been in the industry for a while.
Yeah, and I have been in the industry for a while. I started, if you can believe it, Joe, pre-internet. So when I started in the business in the late 80s, that was back when women, and we were always told as women, yeah, you could do voiceover, but really men get 70 to 80% of the work. And I was like, well, that's 20 to 30% of the work I can do. So I went ahead with it. But at that time, because it was pre-internet, who was doing the voiceovers was mostly men, and they were mostly men who sounded like they were over 50 in a suit, right? And there were very few, almost non-existent opportunities for people of color, certainly many less opportunities for women. And at that time, all of your voiceover auditions would come through an agent or a casting director, and you would have to physically go to the agent's or the casting director's office to audition because there was no internet. People didn't have home studios. And that meant you had to live in New York or Los Angeles or maybe Chicago, and you would spend your day wandering around Madison Avenue or stuck in traffic in LA, hoping you get to your audition on time. And when you book something, you would physically go to the recording studio. And if you were in the game and doing voiceover professionally, you might have several auditions and bookings per day. And that was the life of a voiceover talent. And at that time, it was said, oh, there's just a handful of people doing this. And really, it was maybe a few hundred, a couple thousand people doing voiceover in that capacity. Then what happened, Joe, was that in round about the late 80s, 1990, by then the internet was in full swing, and that really affected our business. So that was the first big technology disruptor that I saw in my career. I came from a radio background. I was on the air for many, many years and left radio, and I actually was doing quite well. I was on the Howard Stern show. I was in New York City, had a lot of attention, a lot of fame, but really I wasn't making money, making very little money because radio just is that way. It's a kid's business. So unless you're one of the big guys or big women on the air, you're pretty much making a paltry income. And I was kind of sick of that. So I thought, okay, I'm going to make the transition. People know who I am. I'm kind of famous in the New York area. And I'm just going to quit my radio gig, and the world's going to beat a path to my door. And it's going to be really easy for me to segue into voiceover. What the heck? It's pretty similar. We're behind the mic. Well, that didn't happen, Joe. I quit my radio gig, which was the only salaried revenue I had. And I was like, where it was crickets. So what happened was I had to figure out how to market myself and how to sell my services because I had no clue. And I was pretty broke. And I took the only credit card that wasn't tapped out and I invested. I said, I'm going to the top. And there was this wonderful marketing guru. He's still around. His name is Jay Abraham. And he was giving a seminar. It cost $5,000, which at the time was a ton of money. Still a lot of money today.
Still, yeah.
So I went there. I went into debt and I went there. Remembering something that a great mentor of mine, Jim Rohn, I don't know if you remember Jim Rohn, but he was America's great business philosopher. He's no longer with us, but he left behind many beautiful books. And he said, successful people invest in themselves and their education. And that's what I did. And I'm like, I'm going for it. So I went to this marketing seminar with all these entrepreneurs and business owners. I was the only voice talent in the room. I inhaled everything that Jay taught. I learned the principles of direct marketing and started cramming to learn how to sell myself. And I went back to my tiny little studio apartment in New York City and I just did everything. I mean, I had to make this work. And it did. And even at that time, when this big technology disruptor was coming in, and this is actually before the internet when I started my business, I was able to get jobs, and I was able to become the voice of AT&T, which was a life-changing opportunity for me. Not because I could audition a little bit better than anybody else, but because I now had a sales and marketing method, which I still teach, and it's called Mic to Money. So then fast forward, all of a sudden we have a huge disruptor in the existing industry, which is now the internet. And what that meant was in a short period of time, what we call the pay to play casting services came online, Voice 123, voices.com. They were the leaders in this area. Hundreds of thousands of people signed up for these services. At the same time, the business was exploding. Where there was base before the internet, we had commercials. We had what were called industrials, which were those cheesy corporate videos, right? That early voice talent would narrate. I mean, if you remember everything from those little, what were they? Those little tapes that went around. You'd see them in the school and they'd break, right? Or things for the military. And voice talent would narrate those, and maybe the only audiobooks were for the blind, right? But all
Oh,
of a
yeah. Yeah.
sudden, the business exploded with all these new niches. Corporations started taking their trainers off the road. Why would they need to? Because people could be trained online. Incredible cost savings. And that had all of its many iterations. You had the whole medical narrations niche exploded. Video games, which I guess have been with us since, Mario, but now look at what they are. Billions and billions of dollars are spent in that niche, and on and on and on. And actually, in my book and in my work, I talk about 14 niche markets. So that was a huge disruptor, though, to the old guard voice talent, these guys that had gotten used to being the voices and and working directly with the agents and the ad agencies. And all of a sudden the business changed. And a lot of them were very angry and very bitter, Joe. And they refused to adapt. They were like, wait a minute, I am an actor. These upstarts don't know what they're doing. I'm never going to lose my pole position, right? And what happened was that those who couldn't adapt faded away. They became, like, sad to say, like dinosaurs, had to retire early, whatever it was that they did. But the truth was, with this technology shift, there was opportunity for everyone, as there still is. And, the voiceover industry is so much bigger than people think, meaning all of the opportunities where voices are needed. And so we went along, and now here we are in 2023. And obviously, the big technology disruptor is AI and the ability of artificial intelligence to sound like live human beings. And this is not new. It's been going on for at least a decade now. And they're improving the technology to where it can sound pretty lifelike. But you know what, Joe? It's still a machine.
Okay.
And what a machine can't do is reproduce the soul of the human being. And it never will be able to do that. I don't care what they're saying in Silicon Valley with this thing about singularity, the merger of human brains and computers. It's impossible because of a fundamental inversion we have in science, Joe. And this is something I've learned from my great teacher, Dr. Norberto Kepi, down in Brazil, who you also have been studying. And what this inversion is, Joe, is that humanity thinks that if we don't see it, science believes, if we can't perceive it with our senses, and this was an Aristotelian idea, Aristotle, what we can't feel, what we can't touch, what we can't see doesn't exist. Okay, yeah, we know about the soul. And Joe, you're a theologian, you're a pastor in your spare time. So you know this as a spiritual person so people think, sure, so the church is over here and the rest of life is over here, right? So our spiritual nature is one thing, but then there's our secular world. And, so we as humanity's been struggling with this ever since Aristotle screwed up what his master Plato was teaching, which Plato really was working with energy. And Aristotle was, no, 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 no. If I can't see it, if I can't touch it, it doesn't exist. And so, what does that mean to us as artists? And what does that mean today? It means when we've got a big technology disruptor, when a computer comes and people are seeing, wait a minute, those voices, they kind of look like a duck. You know, they quack a little like a duck, so it must be a duck, right? But they're not, because so much of what we transmit as human beings, and especially through our voice, and poets know this, and anyone who, and I think all of us, right, enjoy live music, we enjoy live theater. We all of us know that what an artist is able to transmit is transcendent. And it's not just that artist, it's in all of us. So unfortunately, science has not followed. Science has become very splintered and has not allowed, call it theology, call it spirituality, or even call it this transcendental metaphysical view of the human being to be accepted. It's seen as woo-woo, it's seen as fringe. And where has that led us? It's led us that here humanity is. We're trying to extract energy from fossil fuel, and we're failing miserably. Our planet is heating up. We're desperate. Sure, we're working on electrical cars, but what about the power grid? Do you know, Joe, the power grid will have to increase by 3 times to if all cars were to become electric? Well, good luck with that. I mean, we'll figure something out. But at the same time, there are people working quietly or even not so quietly in extracting energy from space where it's abundant, as Tesla discovered all those many years ago. So I bring this up because it's the same inversion as Dr. Kepi, who was the one who coined the phrase inversion, that we as voice talent have. We don't respect that our talents didn't come from us. We don't appreciate that our talents are not for our own aggrandizement and that they only increase in the giving and sharing of them. And so therefore, all of a sudden you have a technology disruptor coming along and people think, oh, I'm through. Computers are going to take over. I mean, hello? What are you saying? This is the end of art as we know it? Well, people have tried with these NFTs, these non-fungible tokens that, okay, you take art is no longer on the wall. It's on your computer and it's stamped with my IP address if I'm the creator. I mean, come on. Okay, have fun, you guys. But doesn't mean and we have auto tuning of voices, right? Well, for millions of people, that's a party. Not for me, it isn't.
No.
I don't know about you. So I think I've said enough, Joe. You probably got a lot of questions. Go right ahead.
There are
I've hogged
some.
the floor. Go ahead.
I mean, we kind of established what you've done in the past, and that gives you the reason, the rationale to do the research. And so you've got to be on top of it. I mean, it's not only because it's the business that you're in, but because you're looking at a clientele of, I mean, gosh, we've got to have over 12,000 people
No,
that
we
have.
do. We have, and Joe is one of our wonderful talent advisors, and of course now our interviewer par excellence, right? And also student, right? You went through all of our
Yes.
training and all of our programs.
Yes, ma'am.
So yeah, we have a lot of people that are on Planet Great Voice, as I might say it. And you might be thinking, well, Susan's saying these things, so she has a business to save. And I'm like, okay. Of course I'm going to, I'm a business owner. Of course I'm going to protect. I want to enhance. I want to grow my business. Why wouldn't I? But the point is, I could retire, Joe, tomorrow
Right.
quite comfortably, I might add. But I'll never do that. Why? Because A, I love what I'm doing, but B, it's the right thing to do. What I stand for is that artists and people with talent supporting you guys to become the entrepreneurs you deserve to be. Because what you bring to the world is something of great value, incredible value and service. So that's what I stand for. We're building a new world, Joe, with this discovery of how humanity is inverted. And it has to happen, and it is happening, and there are already new devices being discovered, and courses and classes, and a university in Brazil, and people taking our classes here that are getting involved with this shift. It's because this technology disruptor, in a way, has brought to the forefront a shift that needs to take place within all of us, where we start to value our gifts and not only just sit there and think, "Oh, look how cool, what beautiful voice I have," and be have what I call vocal narcissism, where you listen to your voice, "Oh, for hours. Boy, damn, I sound great," right? No, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is learning about your customer. That's the first step in my Mike to Money method, Joe. Learning about the people we serve, their needs in a way that we can then do the best for them and build a customer base, because you are nothing as a voice talent until you have what? Your first customer.
Right.
Otherwise it's a hobby. Otherwise it's, if dare I say it, microphone porn. You know what I mean?
We just keep saying it's a boat, and a boat is a hole in the water that you continually throw money into.
Right.
And
Yeah,
so,
that's what
it's a hobby,
people
same
go,
kind of thing.
okay, I got my Neumann, I've arrived. No, you haven't done anything. You have an expensive hobby until you get your first customer. And that's what I'm about. That's what we stand for. That's what we've always stood
Right.
for. That's what saved me when I was a broke former disc jockey floating around New York City, was learning how to market myself and learning, Joe, that marketing is nothing more than determining who your customer is and serving them and learning how to get more of the people that you're right for and to serve them. So, if I may get on to another point, Joe, which is about how we can differentiate ourselves in
Right.
this age of AI, right?
Well, I was gonna ask you about that. I mean, we talk about the idea that, and people are really concerned that
Mhm.
AI voices will spell the end of everything, that those voices will take over. And, you know, uh, if I were a business owner, why would I spend money on a human if I can get a pretty good approximation? I mean, I watch a lot of YouTube videos, and so I will tell you that I hear a lot that are not really good approximations, but there it is getting better. But
Yeah.
I would ask you about that. Tell us a little bit about hey, how AI is going to not end voiceover, but enhance us and help us.
Yeah. Hell, for sure. Well, I can tell you right away how it's going to enhance and help us, because voice buyers now have phenomenal tools at their disposal to write more scripts for us,
Right.
and fast. I mean, in yesterday's Wall Street Journal, huge article about how ad agencies are using AI. And because we are in the wild west of this new technology, there are all kinds of questions like, oh my, if I go on ChatGPT to write my scripts, might I be inadvertently committing copyright fraud? So there are no guardrails yet, right?
Exactly.
So companies are experimenting on how to use the technology. But I can tell you what's great for us is that the people who hire us will be able to produce more work.
Right.
Now, more quickly, and at a lower cost for those companies. So, hey, that enables more ad agencies to surface and to thrive. You ever think about that?
Oh,
Where
no,
before the
absolutely.
barrier to entry for a voice buyer was very, very high. Like if you're going to compete with the real big ad agencies now with AI technology, they can get in the game at a very reasonable price. Now, to your question about, well, okay, since we're talking price, why the heck would somebody want to pay a human when they can get a bot to do it? And the bots are sounding pretty good and they're sounding better all the time. Well,
Sure.
we can't dispute that. Obviously, the technology will be enhanced. Two things that are obvious that might have escaped people who haven't been in the business before. So much of what we do is collaborative. When we work with producers, when we're working with a copywriting team at an ad agency, a creative team that is for their video people, their copywriters, their producers, their directors. Those people have a vision, and even at the smaller level, even at the local level, The person doing, say, the commercial or any kind of production is an artistic, creative professional. They have a vision. And a lot of these men and women are on the side. They're working on documentaries, they're working on feature films. This is their day job. They want and need to collaborate with the voice actor to express their vision and to express the client's vision. So reducing all of that to finance, thinking so, and listen, I'm not blaming or getting down on any new person because we live in a capitalist society, and of course, it all comes down to money in the end, right? Everybody knows that. But you guys who are new don't understand the production process enough. You don't understand because you haven't done it before. When we're hired, we're collaborators. It's probably and we are directed, Joe.
Right.
In our home studios, we're directed. We have technology called Source Connect and other technologies that allow us to be live directed by our customer, by the production companies, by the ad agencies, the people who hire us. And they want to do that and they need to do that. And the session it's not just put it down. They might have you spend an hour with you reading a paragraph. You read it so many times, not because you're doing it wrong or because you suck, but because they want lots and lots of opportunities when they get back into the video editing booth to try it this way, to try it that way, and to express the feelings and the emotions that you, as the voice actor, have been trained and enabled to do. Now, can an AI do this? An AI gives you one thing. And sure, but they can't give you context. Why? Because not only is English a stressed language, but think, Joe, about all the different ways you can express anger. Think about all the different ways you can express joy. Think about all the nuanced ways you can be skeptical and come through your voice. Think about all the ways you can express enthusiasm, from a kind of a flat, sarcastic enthusiasm to like an over the top, jumping off the walls enthusiasm. And it goes on and on. So the human voice actor is able to express unlimited capabilities and possibilities, and even some things that are spontaneous and coming from the muse in the moment that enhance the vision of whomever is creating the project you are in service of. Guys, I hope this is the key point for all of you. It is not purely transactional. We are collaborators with other artists. We are collaborators with other creative teams. That is our purpose as voice actors. We are collaborators with the clients. My goodness, are we collaborators, Joe? I'm remembering a session I had. So because I have a good high energy read, I've done a lot of direct response advertising. So like the things you see as seen on TV, I was the voice of Topsy Tail. Are you getting bored with your hair? Don't despair. Now there's an exciting new look for Topsy, right? That was me, right? And I was the voice of Jaffa blocks and pearls by the inch, all these things you see late at night. But I'll never forget when I did one of those, the entrepreneur who developed the product came in, and I'm thinking to myself, this is the stupidest script I ever saw in my life. This product is so stupid. But I got over it like that. Why? Because the nerve of me, this is somebody else's vision, and I am hired to deliver it. I'm hired to love that product. I'm hired to support that entrepreneur. And if not, get out of the business. So that's what I'm here for. I'm here for them. And of course, I got over it. And of course, I really enjoyed meeting this lady and delivering it with all my heart and all my soul and the spirit that she wanted and she needed. And it sold a ton of money, made a ton of money. My customer made a ton of money on those hair things, the Topsy Tail. Tens of millions. It's famous in direct response TV ads because I worked with them and I gave it. Now, can an AI do that? You can get an enthusiastic AI voice, but it's got one note,
Right.
And it has no nuance, no context. You know what I mean by context? So when an actor goes to work in a film, for example, they write the entire backstory of their character.
Right.
They
Well, I
work in
mean,
it.
This is something that you and I've talked about before. You're coming up soon. We're going to have the marketing master class, which used to be VO Bootcamp.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's where I met you first. That's
Yeah.
where, I had our session, our 20-minute session back at another time,
Yeah.
but that's where I spent a day with you first.
Yeah.
And we did the read for Always, which is a Disney, which was a Disney read. And so you told us about that moment before. We talk about moment before acting. And you laid that on the line for us and said, all right, what are you, where are you? What's the scene? What's the setting? Who are you in this thing? And who are you directly speaking to? One
Mhm.
person that you're speaking to.
Yeah.
And I remember you coming nearly to tears because I read Always, and it was just kind of a real impassioned thing. And you said, who are you speaking to? I said, my 4-year-old daughter.
Aw.
And you said, but you don't have a 4-year-old daughter now. I said, no, she's nearly 30. But I had to step back into that moment
Yeah.
and think of that way. That's something that we can do as voice actors on the spot.
Yeah.
All it takes is
So
just a second to rethink it, and that is something that technology cannot replace.
never. So the human being is linked to transcendence in
Right.
that sense, Joe. So for you to have a 30-year-old daughter and be able to go back in time to when she was 4, that's a transcendent exercise because those moments always exist in your heart. Every parent knows has moments in their children's lives. Anyone who ever loved anyone, which is all of us, have beautiful memories to draw on and other times that were poignant to draw on. And as if an AI could ever do that. So I mean, but again, the problem, it's not anyone's fault because our technology, our society is inverted. We have put the transcendent, the metaphysical in secondary plane, something we only do on in church or in the synagogue on the weekend or on the Sabbath, right? Or maybe we never do, or maybe we do it for a few minutes on the weekend, right? But guys, we're in that universe all the time. And that's why everyone loves art because the artist is connected to that. That's their life. So you're here, if you're watching this, because you're attracted to that. And you're thinking, wow, this is so cool. Through voiceover, I can express that. I can express that in audiobooks more than anything, Joe. Now, look, I want to be straight with everybody. AI voices are going to take some voiceover work where it doesn't matter. So there are audiobooks, which, as we speak, are being narrated by AI voices. And maybe some people don't care. Like some people, it's fine with them to listen to an auto-tuned singer, right? It's got its place, it's got its time. Okay, great. I'm in the gym, I'm listening, I'm bopping along. Fine, no problem. And if I've got to read a textbook that's boring and dull, why do I need an actor to do that? I don't. The person doesn't care. But the true audiophile, the true appreciator of an audiobook of storytelling, Joe, AI
That's it.
cannot tell a story.
That's it.
Cannot do it. Ain't happening. It's an approximation of a story. They're literally phoning it in because
It's
they don't have any, they just, it's a program. There's no there there. There's no
it's
there there.
words. It's absolutely words on the screen.
Exactly.
I mean,
So
we
does
talk
that
a
is
lot
that
about the
fine? Okay, sometimes like do I need my and listen, I come from a phone system. I'm the voice at Citibank, so and I'm not dissing that at all. And I actually, when I was hired for Citi, that was an act, that was a casting thing. They had a very particular persona they wanted the voice to convey, and thank goodness I was chosen to do that. And 25 years later, I'm still their voice. But for most of us, nobody needs to have their voicemail emote to them like Shakespeare, for goodness sakes. Okay, let that go to AI. Fine. And there's some other areas I'm sure in voiceover, like our customers might use it for scratch tracks when they're developing. They want to match the voice to picture and things like that. Fine, let them do that. There might low level commercials that nobody really cares. A commercial on a gas tank. Who knows where it'll be used and
right.
where it's being used. But believe me, go back to thinking about we're working with other creative types that need us to collaborate with them. We
This
are
gets us This gets us to a point, and I know it's something that we want to cover, and something that's been asked of you
Mhm.
multiple times, and that's about licensing a voice
Oh,
or
yeah, good.
voice cloning. And I maybe I don't understand that completely, but I really would love to hear your input about that because licensing is a big deal.
Yeah. No, it's a huge deal, and in fact, I need to get an attorney on here to talk to us about that. I
Good.
happen to have a dear friend who is an attorney and a voice talent, and I'm gonna talk to him, and, we are developing a podcast, so I'll be sure to get him in because I don't wanna speak to that, but what I do know, I have talked to voice talent who have been ripped off.
No,
I talked to one lady. She's a very popular Spanish voice talent, Mexican, does a lot of voiceover in Spanish for North and South America. And she was called in to be a voice that she was told this is for going to be an artificial intelligence. But we're a nonprofit company and we're using it to help people. Okay, great. Well, guess what? The company was bought by Apple and she'd given up her rights, right? She got paid a flat rate with no licensing attached. Well, all of a sudden her voice is everywhere. And what's she going to do? Sue Apple? So, yes, people are working very hard to find a way for us to, I don't want to say legally clone our, like to create a voice clone that you can then license to. At this moment, Joe, I'm a little skeptical because I think it's going to be really tough to collect on that. I mean, God bless anyone who's able to do that and work with a customer. This is developing technology, so I don't want to speak a lot about it at this moment. But my promise to you, watching us now, is that I will be looking for experts to talk on that. So at this moment, it scares me. I would not enter into an agreement and sign anything, where licensing and payoffs are promised. It's just so fraught. It's such a new frontier, new technology. So I'm not saying I'm what's the word? I'm ambivalent at this moment. I can't speak authoritatively on it. It is a thing that people are talking about, and that's why you got to stick with us because we're committed to following the research, getting experts on here that can help you with that one. Does that answer your question, Joe?
yes, ma'am.
I think in the meantime, Joe, what can you do in this moment? So there's
Right.
a lot of people watching us. You're new. Get your first customer. Stop worrying about this. Stop worrying. It'll find its level. There'll be ways it's going to enhance our business. But there are plenty of opportunities out there still for you to go and collaborate and get your first job and then grow it from there. Build that relationship. Just like happened with me. I mean, when I got my first gig with AT&T, the first job I got with them, and I got it through an audition, paid $350. Well, I was their voice for decades, and at the end, they were over $1 million customer in ag because they kept coming back again and again and again. And that's how we really make money in this business. It's getting a customer and keeping them and serving them. And one thing we haven't talked about, Joe, is customer service. So, do you have a perspective? You have a question for me there? Otherwise, I'll launch right into it about
Well,
that.
I mean, I think that's another place where we've got the AI discussion on one hand, because the customer service in that is going to be a tech guy or girl who's going to be able to talk to a company that needs a voice, and versus again an individual, a voice actor, and us, our clients. Speak a little bit to that. What
Yeah, sure.
about gaining customer service experience? We're talking about the marketing masterclass of all things that's coming up soon. Uh, Speak a little bit about that, Susan, and how that will help define for us going forward what we should be doing with our customers.
Okay, so the starting point here is realizing that that you don't have a business until you have a customer.
Right.
It's a hobby. It's a fantasy. It's a delusion. It's a brag fest with your friends. Oh, I'm a voice talent. Look at my equipment. Well, I don't think anybody watching this wants to go down that road. You guys don't need that. But you do want to have a proof of concept, you want to have a relationship with a customer, and that's the real joy of doing this. When you are a true collaborator, when people appreciate your skills and your abilities. And the point is, the newcomer, and even those of us who are more experienced, the hardest battle we face is appreciating ourselves, right? So that being aside, there's a lot of customer service in this business. And let me explain how that is. Before I get in there, I want to say, let's not underestimate the annoyance factor of dealing with technology. So our customer is a busy, busy professional, whatever they're doing. And the last thing they want to do is start working with a technology that does not work. So who among us has futzed with their computer, with their software? That is hell, right? For any of us, we've all been there when tech doesn't work, or learning to use new tech. That is not something that many people relish, even if they're going to save a little money, right?
Right.
So you got to think about that. So in many ways, it's so easier for them to call a human, one of us, to come in and get the gig done. And within an hour, we're in and we're out and we're done and we did a great job. So the customer service comes, one, being easy to work with, being fast and responsive, being a live human that can respond to whims on their side, because often we're working for a middleman who has a client that hired them. So think of a production company, right? So their customer is Alpo Dog Food or Purina or something like that is their customer. And they are the production company that got the gig and they're hiring us, right? So imagine Purina suddenly comes to them and says, oops, I have a script change. Get the voice talent back in here. And I need it read. It's sounding a little harsh, maybe a little cold. I need it read with more warmth. Get your talent back in here. We changed the script. So we as voice talent are going to redo it. We're going to give them the warmth that they need. And then the customer goes, there's a little too much warmth. Would you make it a little brighter? Okay. You can't do that with AI. It's not a matter of shifting in dials. And then they're saying, it sounded a little flatter through here. So maybe you could 3 hours, 12 days later, get something to approximate it. And your customer's like going, hey, we're going on the air in 24 hours. What's going on with you? See what I'm saying? I think so. We have that ability to respond on a dime, to be flexible, to serve our customer. So that's one point of customer service. The second point of customer service is, again, getting back to having a human, the aftercare, calling up and say, hey, did you get what you needed? Is there anything else I can help you with? Having that relationship. I have a customer in the political voiceover realm. I have a guy that does political ads. He'll often come to me and say, hey, I need to do a spec to get a gig. And I do that for free for him. So it's kind of like an audition, but I will actually record a political ad and I'm asking him and I'm going back and forth with him and I get it done within an hour and he's thrilled. That's relationship. And then when he gets the gig, he calls me because he trusts me. So I hope that makes sense,
No,
Joe.
it does. It makes absolute sense. It's one of the things we talk about in our support role here at the Great Voice Company is that it's about relationship. It's about being able to spend that time with people and making sure that they have everything that they need to be successful.
Yeah.
And so that's what we want.
You said it, because we help our customers be successful.
Right.
Because our customer, and so again, I want to get back, guys, don't elevate technology above yourself. It's a tool. It's a tool for somebody, right? If somebody's going to use AI, it's not to cut you out. You, voice talent, in my long experience, Joe, of working with newcomers, they're looking for any reason to say this won't work for them.
Right.
And they're looking for someone from outside to tell them they've got talent.
Right.
That's a huge mistake. You're never going to get that, or you're going to be that annoying actor. Oh yeah, you're good. You're great, babe. Right? And internally you're addicted to drugs because you can't stand yourself.
That's all I'm sitting here thinking is like, yes, I hear my voice. It's terrible. And that's the way we hear ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's until we get over that, get over ourselves. that we really can be successful doing what we're supposed to be doing.
Well, you know what? You don't have to love your voice. You can hate your voice and still be successful doing this because you should be listening to your voice anyway as a voice actor. If you're listening to your voice, you're doing it wrong, actually. You listen to your voice in the playback to edit yourself. But when you're acting, you shouldn't even be wearing headphones unless someone's directing you, and then you only wear one ear. You should be so focused on the product, on the receiver of the message, on the audience, so focused that who you are and your own interest doesn't even enter into the picture.
My head junk doesn't need to be a part of that.
No, and we all have head junk. That day where you won't have it will never ever come. So the only hope we have is to do something for someone else. Otherwise,
Right.
we're sunk. We're lost. And we are that loser, that washed up actor that nobody ever wants to be around, you know? But as long as we're in service, we're viable, we're vibrant, we're enthusiastic, we're young, we're all of those great things. And
Well,
so this
I know that that is
technological.
part of the whole KEPI discussion that we've had about consciousness and understanding that uh, there's there's a unique relationship in humanity, and our needs are not to be. Yes, we have the personal needs, the things that we have to have, our necessities. But aside from that, where our deepest joys, our greatest experiences, the things that are going to elevate us are going to be tied to what we are doing for others, how we are using our gifts, our talents, our abilities, our passions, our experiences, our personalities to assist others and bring them along with us.
That's beautifully said, Joe. And maybe that's a great place to end this conversation, which has been lengthy. I want to thank everybody that's been indulging us here. I hope we've been useful. I hope I've given you some perspective, some some enthusiasm, some hope, some excitement, some desire to pursue this. Voiceover is not over. It's far from dead. In fact, I'll just summarize. We're going through a technology disruptor, and we can adapt. We can flow with it, and we can welcome the new opportunities, and we can serve our customers even better than before because they're out there and they're waiting for you.
Right. Well, there is one other thing that I had for you.
Sure.
We talked about your bona fides earlier. We talked about being a business owner. We talked about the reason that you would do all this research. There are going to be some that are saying, well, wait a minute, your entire business plan, everything that goes on with a great voice company, your livelihood even depends on clients, depends
Mhm.
on having people come in and be involved. You train voice actors. So is there a way? Is there some way that you could be painting a rosy picture that AI is not going to be taking over?
Guys, you have you have three choices. It comes down. First of all, of course, I'm going to support my business. I
Oh,
mean,
absolutely.
who will not to? So, of course, I have a dog. What is it? Dog in the hunt. You're from Texas. What do you guys
No,
say?
I have a dog in the yes, I have a dog in the fight.
A dog in the fight. I have a cow in the pasture. What do you guys say down there? I have a longhorn.
Yeah, right out
So
back. So
he's out back. All right. So look, you have if you don't believe me, you have three choices. You can throw up your hands and say, "Yeah, it's not for me," and I bless you. Go do your thing. Leave.
sure.
Okay, that's choice one. Choice two is you can be like those grumpy old voice talent when the internet hit and say, yeah, she's over exaggerating. Yeah, nothing's going on. I'm just going to stay the course. And then suddenly watch your business decline and decline. And all of a sudden you're out, right? Or you can be the third person, which is who we're here for you, and go with the opportunity, work with the people that appreciate you, learn to market and sell yourself because it's the most liberating, useful skill that anyone can adopt at any time with any voice that's going to serve you for the rest of your life because it's the art of learning to serve others and be viable to be of service. And that's what I stand for. That's what keeps me alive, Joe. As I said earlier, I could retire. Why would I do that? Do I want to go play pickleball with all the rest of my day? No offense. I know a lot of people are passionate about it. No. Have my arm in a sling? Like all my friends, what's wrong with you? Your face is open. I fell on the pickleball court. Not for me. God,
Grab my
listen,
chest, fall to the
I'm not
ground.
dissing it. It's a great sport and millions of people love it. But I love doing what I do, and I especially love working with you and helping you discover your new talents and your abilities is what lights me up. And that's what makes me really happy. And then this is who I am. This is what I do, you know? So
Susan, thank you so much for your time today and for joining us and to walk through this. It's such a big thing, and but we want to make sure that we're letting our people know. We hear it from them in customer support. We hear it from them as their talent advisors and as their coaches and as their friends. I mean, a lot of folks that we have as clients are folks that will call us to ask our opinions about certain things, and some of them are genuinely worried about it, but to be able to get a message out to them to let them know, hey, look, uh, yes, it's there, but it can't do what you can do,
yeah,
and give them encouragement there. I'm just so thankful that you took the time to do this today.
of course. Of course. You're going to be fine. Let's help you get your first job or your next job. Okay.
Thank you,
I'll
ma'am.
talk to you soon. Thanks, Joe.
Appreciate it.
It was really nice.